Okay, so my name is Siobhán and I am of Autonomy Nutrition at the moment. So I started off in nutrition. I got interested in nutrition when I realized that I hadn't a clue about nutrition. Back in the day, back when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I thought that making sure you ate absolutely no fat and you stayed skinny and anything over that wasn't healthy. But in reality, I wasn't healthy at all. Avoiding foods, avoiding food groups. My menstrual cycle was affected as well. So that was affected for 10 years and all this was going on internally. But when the outside world looking in just sees a certain figure or a certain body, they think that epitomizes health. They think nothing else is wrong. And this can be the case for a lot of people, that we have these ideals of what health is, which aren't accurate. So we're going to talk about that today. So my background is education. I'm a teacher, but I got into fitness, first of all, when I was in Australia, which I've already talked about. And then I studied nutrition when I came back to Ireland. But I realized that if I was to ask all of you what foods are healthy, what food should you eat if you want to achieve your goals, I think we'd all have a fairly good idea of what those foods are. But why don't we stick to those goals, or why do people find it so difficult to achieve their goals or stick to a healthy meal plan? And it got me thinking that it's not really what we eat, but it's why we eat, and why we are more inclined to overeat, or what are we trying to suppress when we're overeating, and emotional eating. So there's a lot of psychological aspects to it. So I'm studying psychology now, and it's all intertwined, and I'm finding it so interesting. So that's why I set up the Autonomy Nutrition page to share information on that. I'm also working with ProFi Fitness as their nutrition tutor, and I'm working with the Ladies Lifestyle Academy, where we take women through a 60-day program. I'm working on fitness, health, or nutrition and mindset with Marie, who was on earlier today, and Michael is the manager of ProFi, and he's on it as well. So we're going to learn today how you can eat cake and reach your goals. There's going to be a lot of information today, but you don't need to know it all. You don't need to know everything to reach your goals. You don't need to know everything or do all the things I say today in order to achieve your goals. Just take one thing that stands out to you. Take one thing with you that's going to work for you, because we can't climb a mountain with one step. You have to take small steps and be consistent. So just try and do small things every day, and go from there. Okay, I'll stop saying as well. So this is the first thing. Why is it so hard to stick to our nutrition goals? This is what we'll be talking about, these 6 factors, okay? And these 6 factors add up to give us feelings of failure, of not reaching our goals, and leading to binge eating or emotional eating. So first of all, we'll be talking about not knowing your core values. And if you can interact with this, it'll be great. And if you just, you might need a pen and paper to work it out yourself. Then we'll be talking about not having the education that's around nutrition. And that's simple stuff which a lot of you will know already. Then it's poor body image. How can poor body image affect us achieving our goals, or weight stigma even? After that, I'll talk about why having too many rules, fad diets, too much restriction can lead to feelings of failure, lead to us not reaching our goals. Not having the X factor, we'll talk about what the X factor is, and not preparing for barriers to success. So not realizing what are the triggers to you overeating or not reaching your goals. And we'll work through that as well. Okay. All right, so, and feel free to ask questions throughout. So this is the first one we'll talk about. Why is it so hard to stick to your nutrition goals and your values? So what are your core values? Your core values are the things that define you. They're the things that make you feel fulfilled in life. They're the things that might make you, if you're not living by them, that might make you feel unfulfilled. If you think about someone who goes through a midlife crisis, it might be because they've been living their life not doing the things that are truly important to them. They might have fallen into a job or into a course in college at the start of their lives because it was expected of them, or their parents did it, or whatever it was. And then halfway through their lives, they realized, actually, what I really wanted to do was X. So these things, not living by our values, not living by the things that are important to us, can really affect us emotionally, it can affect us physically, and it can affect us on a day-to-day basis. It can make us feel unfulfilled. It can make you feel bored with life. And this is a lot of the reasons why we might not stick to our nutrition goals, because we are thinking we need to lose weight because that's what everyone else is doing. We're thinking we need to lose weight because that's what the women in the magazines look like, or we think we need to have a six-pack because the men in the magazines are doing that, or building muscle because that's what the buff men on films are looking like, or whatever it is. And we kind of get distracted from actually what's really important to you. What do you actually care about? And yeah, weight loss might be involved in your goals. You don't have to change that, but it's why you're doing it. So changing the why there. Okay, so the first thing I want you to think about when you're trying to come up with what your values are is think of a meaningful moment in your life, or moments. Think of those times when you were really, truly happy, so ecstatic. So it could be the birth of a child. It could be being at a concert, outdoor concert with your friends. It could be Christmas dinner with your family. There's a million reasons. So write down, and you can put it in the comments if you want. And I'm going to share I'll share values to give you an idea of them, but I want to see if you're able to come up with some yourselves first. So think of meaningful moments. So you can write them down to yourself. And what values, what was coming up for you then? Was it love? Was it happiness? Was it excitement? Was it achievement? Did you achieve something? Did you pass something? What was it that made that moment so special for you? Thanks, Michelle. So being with family. So family was important there. That's a great one. Okay, the next one to think about what your values are. Think of a time when your values are suppressed. So think of a really hard time in your life. So think of a time maybe when you've had a fight with a spouse or a friend. What did you not feel in that moment? Did you not feel loved? Did you not feel listened to? Did you not feel respected? So those things would mean that love is important to you, that respect is important to you, that being heard is important to you. If you felt sick in life, what were you not feeling then? Were you not feeling freedom? Were you not feeling health? So that means health is important to you, that freedom is important to you. So being suppressed and being angry and being sad, these can really tell us what's important to us. So some great ones there. Not feeling love, lack of respect. Yeah, respect is always a big one. And just when you're writing these out, there's no such thing as a wrong value or someone else's values are better than mine. Everyone is so different. So you figure out what your values are to you. Everyone is different. Okay? Hurts. Yeah. Another way to figure out your values is, what are your non-negotiables? So every single day, what do you need to do? Do you need to have family time? Do you need to have exercise? Is exercise important to you? Is being fit important to you? Is growth important to you? Do you need to learn something new every day? Do you need to work on yourself? Do you need self-care every day? What is it? What do you need to do every day that's really important to you? So take a second to write those values down. And finally, another way is to look to others. Okay, look to other people and see to people you respect and admire. Who do you look up to? Who do you want to achieve to be like? What is it about them that you look up to? Is it, so let's just take someone like Mother Teresa. So is it because I use her as an analogy a lot for anyone who works with me, but is it because she's kind? Do you value kindness? Was it because she was brave? She went out on her own? What was it? So look to other people. Is it achievement? Is it someone who's achieved a lot? Is it courage? Someone who's brave? Is it confidence in someone? What do you admire in other people? Okay. And when you have those down, what you can also do then is have a look at this list of values. Now, this is a huge list. So which of these values stand out to you? And this relates to nutrition because with our values, we can change our goals to mirror our values so that we can they can be more meaningful to us. And when our goals are more meaningful to us, we have a better chance of achieving them. So have a look at this list. And if you don't have time now, just take a picture on your phone of the list. And you can go back to it later because as well as that, our goals or our values change throughout life. I know when I was younger, adventure was a big goal or a big value of mine. I valued going to different places and trying new things and meeting new people. But that's changed now. That's not as much of a value of mine. So they can change through your life. And even tomorrow, you might look back at the list you've made today and realize, okay, I know what's important to me, but actually this is more important to me. Okay, so have a quick look there and see if any of those goals, I keep saying goals, any of those values stand out to you. Which of those are important? You can make a list of 100, you can make a list of 20 and narrow it down. Try and make a list then of between 5 and 10 that really stand out to you. You can group them. So a lot of them will be connected to each other, like vitality, health, fitness, those things are connected. So you can make kind of different groups of them and then see which one is most important out of those groups that kind of display all the values. So we have confidence there. Oh, I've lost everybody. Swimming, respect, self-care, brilliant. Someone who knows who they are, that's a great one. Okay, so there are values. So how can we use these to achieve our goals? So using your values to figure out your why. So write down your goals and why do you want to achieve these goals? What value does it correspond with? So you might have a value or a goal of losing weight, okay, or changing your dietary habits or eating better. But how can we change this to mirror or reflect your values? So rather than saying, I want to lose weight, you might now say, I value health, so I'm going to choose more nourishing meals. I value my family, so I'm going to lose weight so I can play with my kids, run around after them. So you can see here how you can kind of change your goals to reflect your values. And this can make it easier to keep going because now you're not just doing it for you, you're doing it for everyone else. It can be very hard for someone, we'll say, to give up smoking, but if they change it around, we all know the effects of smoking and there's no point telling people to give up. But if they look at it a different way, they say, I'll give up smoking because it means I've more of a chance to be at my grandchild's wedding or something like that if they value family. So finding out their values to help them achieve other goals as well. So you can come back to this now, but if anyone has realized some of their values, you can share them. And we have thankful, that's a great one. I think gratitude is so important every day to say it as well. It can be hard to kind of get into a habit of being grateful or to writing down what we're grateful for. So if you could do it, maybe if you have children, you can, at the end of every day, maybe talk to each other about one thing, 3 things you're grateful for, and make sure that you do it as well. And it gets you in the habit of thinking about it as well. Or if there's other things you do every day, like making your breakfast, making a cup of tea, using those times to think one thing I'm grateful for, even if it's I'm grateful that I have a kettle to make a cup of tea. Gratitude is important. It's a great value. Okay, so there are values. Okay, does anyone have questions on that? You can fire them up. So why is it so important to stick to our nutrition goals? Number 2 is not having the education. So if you have figured out, okay, what are my values? Now it's having the education. So it is about knowing what foods to eat, why you're eating them, how they're going to help you achieve your goals. Okay, so we can give a fair estimation of a healthy breakfast, like a bowl of porridge, a healthy lunch, and a healthy dinner. But it's knowing why you're doing this and not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Okay, so the first thing when you're trying to achieve your goals, you can look at different diets. There's the low carb diet, there's the low fat diet, there's the low everything diet. There's a diet called the carnivore diet, which is only eating meat, eating no fruit and vegetables. There is the banana girl diet, which is only eating bananas. There's the cabbage soup diet. And there's a diet for everything out there, and they all claim to be the best diet, and they all claim to solve all your problems in the world. But there's a few facts, and it's the facts that are going to get you there, and it's the facts that won't make you feel bad about eating, and it's the facts that are going to help you achieve your goals. And the first fact is that calories or energy balance is going to help you either put on weight and muscle if that's your goal, or lose weight if that's your goal. Okay, so knowing why and what to eat in order to achieve your goals, and also knowing that nutrition and exercise play only a small part of our overall health. And I mentioned that earlier, that even having all this education, knowing it all, it doesn't matter if you're not sleeping well, if your digestion isn't well, if you're not going to the toilet doing a number 2 every day, if your hair is falling out, if you're not menstruating, if your libido is going, these are all signs that something else is going on in our life, or something else is going on inside our bodies, and you really can't ignore these signs and symptoms that are happening. So yeah, ticking the box for nutrition, ticking the box for fitness is really important, but not ignoring what your body is trying to tell you, what your body is trying to say. And no matter what it is, how small you think it is, a little pain that Sarah's talking about, knee joint pain, like not ignoring that, because it does get worse, and it's the same for everything going on inside your body. Okay, so what are the key components of a healthy diet for achieving your body composition, whether that's putting on muscle or losing weight? So the first thing I said was energy intake and calories, and you can monitor this in a lot of different ways. The first way is you can track your food using an app like MyFitnessPal. And these aren't things you have to do forever. These are just things you do for a short amount of time to educate yourself on how much food you're eating, and is it enough? Is it too much? Is it too little? It's an education tool. Another way, if you don't want to use an app, if you're not comfortable going on your phone all the time, tracking this down, you can just write it in a food diary, write down what you're eating. And it's not just the what you're eating, it's being mindful of what you're eating. So for some people who don't want to track their calories, it's just being more aware and conscious of the food that they're eating. And you can do that by writing it down. Another way is by portion sizes. So you can monitor your food intake by monitoring your portion sizes. So a handy way of doing it would be using your hands. So a size of your palm for meat for women, and hand span for fish, and then double that for men. For fruit and vegetables, so a fist, so this is 1 serving size. And then for starches and carbs, it's your hand cupped, so that's 1 serving size as well. And then for fat, it's a thumb. Okay, and that's the serving size. So having one of them with your main meals. And that's just a way of monitoring your intake. Plate planning is another way, and I know, is it Aldi or Lidl that have the plate planners? They have the portion plates. So half your plate of vegetables, 1/4 of meat, 1/4 of starches. So starches or rice or pasta or something like that. So that's another way of tracking your intake. And then another way would be up for mindful eating. So being mindful of what you're eating. Now, this is something you can incorporate with everything, being more mindful, being more conscious of it. So sitting down with your food and not just eating on the go all the time. Obviously, we all have to do that at some points of our life, but at least once a day, sitting down, whether it's something you're eating, whether it's something you're drinking, taking the time to look at it, appreciate it, smell it, and you don't have to sit there with your knees crossed and fancy music in the background. It's just taking a split second to say, what am I eating? Taking the time, smell it, and eat it slowly, eat it mindfully, and truly enjoy it, really enjoy it. So that's your way of monitoring your calories. So that's the first part. The second part is your macronutrients. Okay, so these are your protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And this is where huge debate comes in the nutrition world. Everyone fights over whether high carb is the best, whether low carb is the best, low fat, high fat. And the research has shown that people who are given a high carb diet and people who are given a high fat diet and were given equal amount of protein, that it doesn't matter. It's preference. It's what you prefer eating. It's what's going to make you more likely to sustain the parts of a diet, a healthy diet in the long term. Some people prefer higher carb, some people prefer higher fat, whatever works for you is the best. What does matter though is your protein. So when I get people to track initially, they might find that their protein's actually really, really low. And protein is so important for reaching your nutrition goals, for reaching your body composition goals. For loads of reasons. It makes you feel fuller for longer, so it's the highest satiety of all the macronutrients. It increases your metabolism, and it does this because it takes more calories to actually digest protein, but it also increases your muscle mass as well. So when you're exercising, you need protein to build your muscles back up. And this is the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism compared to fat. So if you have more muscle to fat ratio, you're going to have a higher metabolism compared to someone who has a higher fat to muscle ratio. So that's protein. So trying to get as much protein into your diet, so having it with every meal, having it with your breakfast, and that will help balance blood sugar levels as well. Having it with your lunch, having it with your dinner, and then having it with snacks as well. So proteins are your meats, proteins are eggs, proteins are lentils for vegetarians. Protein can come in powder form as well, whey protein, vegetarian, vegan protein powders. So protein can be added to every meal, and it's going to help you feel fuller for longer. So it's going to stop you picking, it's going to stop cravings, it's going to stop blood sugar spikes and blood sugar drops as well then. So concentrating, if you're getting your protein right, then it doesn't matter then if you eat more carbohydrates or more fats. That's all depends on you and what you prefer. So after that, so once you've ticked those two things, you can look at the variety of foods you're eating. This is where you're going to get all your micronutrients, your fiber, your water. Micronutrients are vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients that come from plants. And they really, they give you energy, they give you that zest, they make your skin glow. So getting a wide variety of fruit and vegetables for that, of whole grains as well. With fiber, you're looking at getting between 25 to 34 grams of fiber a day, slightly more for men, so on the higher end of that. And fiber is going to help with digestion. Fiber is going to help keep you fuller for longer as well. It's going to feed your gut bacteria. So there's loads of benefits to fiber. Then we have water. A lot of people struggle getting water, and water is going to Imagine a river flowing. If there's no water, nothing can flow. So water is going to help bring the nutrients from the foods that you're eating to the rest of your body, to the cells that need it the most. And this exercise helps with that as well, because exercise is going to help pump blood through your body more efficiently. So how can we increase our water? Well, first, people are worried that they're dehydrated all the time. So a really easy test to see if you're dehydrated is to look at your urine. So when you go to the toilet, if it's yellow or bright yellow, some vitamins, supplements will make your pee yellow. So if you're after taking a multivitamin or a B vitamin complex, your pee might be bright yellow, but that won't last all day. But if it's yellow other times of the day, that can be a sign that you're dehydrated. If it's a clear color or a pale yellow, you're probably okay. If it's going towards the more yellowy color, then you do need more water. And the more you exercise and the more you sweat, you need more water as well. So some tips that the women I've worked with in the past have worked. So I like this bottle because it has a straw and I just drink more out of it for some reason. Maybe I'm lazy and won't lift it up to my mouth. Other women, what's worked is leaving a pint glass beside your bed at night and not drinking it through the night because it might increase your chance going to the toilet, it's going to disrupt sleep, but rather drinking it first thing when you get up in the morning. And that's going to be 500 mils of water straight away. The next thing, another woman put glasses of water around her house and just reminded her that throughout the day she would drink more water. I think that was one of the students on the ProFi course actually told me that one. So anytime she'd go to the sitting room, there'd be a new glass of water there, so she'd drink that. So there's loads of different ways. Another thing I like to do is I make porridge every morning. So I use that as my time to remind myself to drink some water. So if there's other things you do every day, if you wash the dishes, use that as your time to drink water. So building it into your day like that and seeing how you can increase your water that way. So that is 3. And then 4 and 5 are 4. So the supplements and nutrient timing are some things that people concentrate on. They put the most emphasis on this without looking at any of the other stuff, buying supplements, buying skinny teas, buying skinny lollipops. I know Kim Kardashian had that lollipop up that claimed to suppress your hunger, spending a fortune on that, those kind of things that don't work. There's no supplements that can help with weight loss in that way. Coffee sometimes has been shown to suppress hunger in the literature, in the research, but overall, there's nothing that is going to burn fat. So it's trying to distract from this. Nutrient timings, well, a lot of people put emphasis on if you eat after 6, you're going to put on weight. Or if you don't get your protein in within 30 seconds finishing your gym session, that you're not going to build muscle. But those things, you don't need to worry about those things unless you're becoming an elite athlete. You need to concentrate first on the calories, getting enough protein, getting enough macronutrients, and then after that, you can look at supplements for overall health. Maybe you need some extra B vitamins because you're very stressed. Maybe you need some magnesium because you're not sleeping at night. Maybe you need omega-3s because you're not eating enough oily fish. I have no blanket supplement for everybody. I do recommend for a lot of people to take vitamin D. We don't live in a particularly hot country. So vitamin D levels are usually low. They don't regularly test them anymore or at all in doctors because everyone is deficient. And it has been shown to help people as well with the symptoms of COVID-19. So getting in a vitamin D supplement would be a good idea. And they're quite cheap. They're less than a tenner and it's a spray that tastes decent. So they're not too bad. Okay, so just for the visual learners, that's everything I've just said in a triangle or in a pyramid. So first importance is figuring out your calories, then it's figuring out your macros, so getting your protein in, and after that, it doesn't matter about fats and carbohydrates. Then we look at micronutrition or micronutrients, so your vitamins, your minerals, fiber, water. And then meal frequency, meal timing here, when you eat, and then your supplements. Very last. So rather than skipping all this and going straight to buying supplements, first figuring all this stuff out. But like I said, none of this matters if you are not adhering to it, if you're not staying consistent, if you're finding something too difficult, you need to scale it back a bit. And we'll talk about that. How can you make it more sustainable for you? If you're not getting enough sleep, people who don't get enough sleep have been shown to eat 500 extra calories the next day, to be under more stress. And this can really affect our nutrition, and it can affect how we absorb different nutrients as well. Stress management too, that can deplete us of nutrients if we're always under stress. It can really affect our blood sugar balancing. And then exercise. Exercise is going to, it doesn't just affect our body composition. Exercise can affect us mentally and emotionally too. It can give us that escape that we need. It can be a kind of meditation for people. And I know Nicoletta in the Pilates was talking about, and Kasha this morning, the importance of movement in dealing with stress and in moving every day. So taking all these things, trying to not just focus on one area, not just focusing on your fitness because something else is going to give then, and not just focusing on nutrition because something else is going to give. Your sleep might be affected, your stress levels might be affected. So trying to have a balanced look at everything. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk that might affect your nutrition goals is having a poor body image. And working with women and working with men as well, you can see that this really can affect people in achieving their goals and how they see themselves and in how they talk to themselves too. So how do you talk to yourself? How do you look at yourself in the mirror? Can you look at yourself in the mirror? And what do you say to yourself? If you're constantly berating yourself and like that, if one of your values that come up was kindness, but you're constantly telling yourself you're not good enough, that you're fat, that you're worthless, that you're unmotivated, and these are the things we can say to ourselves. These are the things that you're constantly saying, you're not being kind. So there's a conflict there of what you find important and what you're actually doing. So are you blaming yourself and your actions for not achieving your goals rather than looking elsewhere and what might be the problem? Are you comparing yourself? Are you looking at the media and or are you looking at people you know? And are you picking out every single good part of theirs, their best parts, but picking out all your worst parts and comparing them? So there's unfair comparisons there. There's unfair comparisons with people in the media, full stop, because they're being airbrushed, a lot of them. They are only putting up good pictures, Instagram. Now there's a big movement. A lot of people are putting up not so great pictures, but then it's still giving us the idea that, oh, well, she thinks that picture is perfect. So does that mean I'm striving to achieve that image as well? So listen to your talk here, listen to the way and where have you seen this before? And why does this affect you so much? Have you been compared in the past? When you were growing up, were you always compared with your sister, with your friends? And how has this affected you going forward? What behaviors do you engage in when you're looking at yourself, when you're thinking about yourself? Do you grab rolls of fat and berate yourself? Do you constantly check in the mirror every day, checking your shape, checking your size? Are you weighing yourself constantly? Are you going on the scales numerous times a day, worried about changes in it? What kind of behaviors are you taking part in that's affecting your body image, or letting you know that body image is this important to you, that you need to be a certain body shape or size? And disordered eating. So what type of eating patterns are you engaging in because you think you don't have the right body image or you don't like the body image that you have? So are you skipping meals? Are you not eating for a period of time because you ate too much another time? Are you binging because of something you saw on the scales, or because you didn't look in the mirror, or because you didn't like what you looked in the when you liked what you saw when you looked in the mirror? If you look at your patterns of eating and then look at why you are eating in that way, what do you come to? What different conclusions can you come to? What has caused this way of eating? Is it your body image, or is it comparison to others? Is it the way you talk to yourself? Is it the way other people talk to you? Are other people saying these things to you as well? So one thing that they have found is that when asking women, and most of the research around body image has been done on women, but there's more being done on men as well. But feeling fat and not feeling fat has huge differences every single day that don't reflect our actual changes in weight at all. So as you can see from this graph, there's very little change in weight, but the changes in how we feel about our weight change drastically. So if you think about days when you have woken up and put on your jeans and they felt a little snugger than normal, probably because they just came out of the dryer, no other reason, or if you ate more and you feel full and now you feel fat, or if you just don't like the way you look in a certain day. How is this affecting you on a day-to-day basis? How is it affecting the way you think? Think about when you're walking down the street, okay, and you see someone and you're having one of those feeling fat days, and that person is looking at you. What's your internal dialogue? Are you thinking, okay, this person obviously thinks I shouldn't be wearing these jeans, I look awful. But think about that same situation on the day when you're not feeling fat. You might be thinking, okay, this person must fancy me. They're looking at me. Why are they looking at me? When in actual fact, none of these things are true. The person is looking at you because a bird pooed on your head or something completely different. So you need to challenge your thoughts and challenge the facts behind it, the factualness behind it. Is any of this stuff actually true of what you're saying? So how can we go against that? So we'll talk about that. So the behaviors that happen because of our body image are what is deterring us from reaching our goals. So what are you doing with these body image thoughts? So knowing that the problem isn't your body isn't wrong, your body isn't too fat. It's how you are thinking about your body. Everyone is in different shapes and sizes. Some people are happy with their body, some are not. There's no size that everyone is happy with their body. If people think if you're a size 6, you must be happy with your body. There's the same amount of dissatisfaction going throughout all body shapes. And the same level of satisfaction as well. So it's all about, there's no specific right body size or shape. It's how you are thinking about your body, your thoughts behind your body, and we need to challenge these thoughts. We need to challenge the ideal of what is the perfect body, because not only is it affecting our goals, but it's affecting our happiness. It's affecting how women look at themselves and how they think they're supposed to be. So identify what your trigger is, okay? What has caused this feeling of dissatisfaction? If you've just had a binge, or if you've just overeaten because of feeling a certain way about your body, what caused that? Because if it was getting on the scales need to go. If it was a person who constantly berates you, that person needs to go. But if it's yourself, if it's you that's constantly telling yourself negative things, pinching yourself in places that you think are too fat, then you need to change these thoughts and find ways of challenging them. So different ways that you can challenge your thoughts are, so there's leaves on a stream, so you can sit down, close your eyes, and think of these negative. You don't even have to sit down and close your eyes. You can stand up if you're at the mirror, if you found yourself saying something negative about yourself. Think of you're sitting on a bank and there's a river flowing by with lots of leaves on the river floating, and just leave your thoughts on a leaf and let it flow down the river. and do that. And the thoughts will come back. You're not doing it wrong. And if you get lost, you're not doing it wrong. Just keep trying, putting the thoughts. And if it comes back, say, hello, I don't like you today. Or I've noticed you're here. I noticed a thought, and just put it. And don't get mad at yourself for thinking that way. Just acknowledge it. Another thing that can work for you is changing the voice, how the voice sounds in your head. So giving it a really funny, squeaky voice. So rather than saying, God, I'm so fat today, give it a, God, I'm so fat, and start playing around with different voices, because you start laughing at it, then and you realize what nonsense it is that's coming out of your mouth, that it's not true. So these are, there's a million. You can look up cognitive diffusion techniques, and that will give you loads of different strategies to come up with. So you've identified the trigger. So what are the thoughts that you're having, and what are the beliefs behind these thoughts? Okay, and what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about if these behaviors about these thoughts are leading you to binge, are leading you to feel bad, are leading you to engage in self-destructive behaviors? You need to challenge them. So if this is one of the reasons you're not achieving your goals, this is something you need to work on. Okay, so just check this. Oh my God. Okay, so the next thing you need to work on is, or some people have, is too many rules and too much restriction. And this is where the cake comes in, okay? So what are your rules and what are your restrictions? There has been millions of rules through the decades about what is good to eat and what is bad to eat. So I mentioned eating after 6, eating what's the food combination diet? So not eating fruit and vegetables together, not eating meat and vegetables together, I forget. Then there's the blood type diet that gives you lots of rules. There's the ketogenic diet, so not having any, which some of these diets have a place. I mean, there is a place for the ketogenic diet because it can help with certain cancers, it can help with epilepsy, but it's not a real, and I definitely have gone through phases of trying to adhere to all these diets, especially low carb, thinking that carbs are the enemy, thinking that fat was the enemy initially, thinking that everything was the enemy. So look it up. What kind of rules have you been trying to adhere to throughout your life, or what kind of restrictions have you been trying to avoid or follow? And look at the facts. Does any of this stuff actually make sense? Does it have any backup in the literature? Because if you look stuff up, if you follow certain people on Instagram and you follow the people they follow, all these people are going to be in the same community of following certain diets. So kind of branch out there and see what's going on. Look to people, and you don't have to listen to me either. So look to people who you connect with that kind of resonate with you, and find a way of eating. I mean, keto might be the way that you enjoy eating, and that's absolutely fine. And veganism can be a really easy diet to adhere to for some people because they believe in the welfare of animals so much. And they believe in looking after the universe and looking after pollution. So it can be easy for them. But for other people who don't share those values, it's an extremely hard diet to adhere to. So look at what your rules and restrictions are. And ask yourself, how has that way of thinking, how have those beliefs been working for you so far? Have they worked? If you think, okay, I'm not eating after 6 because that's worked for my Aunt Mary, not eating after 6 on any day of the week, and that's what I need to do. But if you always feel deprived and you try and stick to that rule, then that is not the rule for you. You need to find a way of eating that suits you, okay? And as well, this is with the processed food as well, thinking that all processed food is going to make you get cancer, thinking all processed food is going to make you put on weight, is going to disrupt your blood sugars. It's not true. Eating a diet that's purely based on processed food isn't healthy, but having some of these foods is okay, and it's being okay with that. Okay, so what are the facts when it comes to nutrition? So look at here we have your restrictions and your rules, and are they facts? And what are the facts? So the facts are carbs don't make you fat, and fat doesn't make you fat, and cake doesn't even make you fat. None of these things make you fat. If you end up putting on excess weight, it's because you have been eating more calories than your body needs, or eating more energy or more food than your body needs. And maybe the reason you've been doing that is for one of the other reasons I've already talked about. But maybe it's because you're trying to adhere to these rules and restrictions that are just too hard to stick to. And if you don't stick to them, if you try and stick to these rules, and then you're feeling an urge to eat, or you have a craving, and then you give in to that craving and you eat the food and you have a binge, and then you feel bad and you feel guilty and you feel like you haven't done it right. And then that leads you to, okay, well, I'll start Monday and I'll restrict all those foods again. And then the same thing happens over and over again, and it's a vicious cycle. So if that sounds familiar, then that isn't working for you. And be kind to yourself. Stop restricting the foods. Find another way to do it, because it might have worked for someone else, but it's not going to work for you, or it mightn't work for you. Okay. And the fifth one is not using your X factor. Okay, so we all have something that we look forward to, or something that works for us or makes us enjoy food even more. One of the biggest things that is talked about with the women that I work with is mayonnaise or full fat milk or full fat yogurt, thinking that they cannot have these things. But if certain things are going to help you achieve, help you sustain with a diet more, make you eat a salad. If you hate the thoughts of a salad, but adding a bit of mayonnaise to it is going to make you eat it, then have the mayonnaise. That's your X factor. That's one of the other girls called it a yummy factor. So what's your yummy factor? What's going to make food taste better for you? Healthier food. What's going to make you look forward to it? So it could be mayo on a sandwich. It could be having wine on a Saturday, takeaway on a Friday, ice cream on a Sunday, chocolate with the kids when the kids are in bed. These are all things that have worked for women, or that they've found their X factor to be. So if you want to put some of your X factor foods in the group, and we can see if there's anything familiar there, or you can write it down yourself. But what are the foods that make it easier for you? What foods do you look forward to? What foods do you think you had to avoid in the past that you don't want to avoid? Butter. Butter is a huge one. And eating real butter, Kerrygold butter. You can 100% have a healthy life with butter in it. So you don't have to give up butter, especially the real stuff. Butter becomes problematic maybe if you have very high cholesterol, because it has saturated fat. But if you don't have high cholesterol, and if you don't have history of heart disease, then butter is by all means great. Bread, a huge one as well. People think you cannot achieve your goals with bread. Bread's coming up again. See how bread works for you. I'm okay with bread. I know most of my family are okay with bread, but bread makes some people bloated. But it doesn't mean you're gluten intolerant. There can be different breads that suit you. And bread is a great source of fiber as well, whole grain breads. So you do not have to give up bread by all means when you are on this. And especially if you're going to have bread with eggs, you're eating eggs, they are nutritious. If you're going to have bread with a salad or a sandwich and have protein in that, bread can be almost a vessel to have even more nutrient foods on it. So look at it that way. Chocolate is a huge one. So we've lots of chocolate answers there. So chocolate is kind of something that women always crave and want. And it's about, like I was saying before, being mindful with that chocolate, not feeling like you can't have the chocolate. You can eat chocolate every single day of the week and achieve your goals. It's sitting down, not having it on the go. So not standing up at your fridge, eating the chocolate out of the fridge and not even thinking about it, or having a big bar of chocolate on the bench and grabbing a piece every time you walk past. So putting your favorite foods, putting these foods that are triggers for you to overeat, putting them somewhere that is hard to get to, just so you have to think about it when you get it, that you're absolutely allowed to have these foods, but that you're not eating them mindlessly. And then getting the chocolate, sitting down, maybe wait till the house is quiet, that you can actually enjoy it, and checking in with yourself. How are you feeling? Are you feeling good? Why are you eating the chocolate? Are you eating to enjoy it, or are you eating because you think it's going to solve a problem? If you're eating it because you're thinking it's going to solve a problem, then maybe look at the problem. But overeating is not a bad thing. Overeating is a way of coping for a lot of people. And it's okay sometimes if you feel really sad on a day and you overeat on that day. But if it's happening every single day and if it's affecting your ability to achieve your goals, then you need to look at it. So sitting down and really eating that piece of chocolate with your tea on your break. Home baked goods, great one. I have a rule that I give myself, that if someone has baked something, no matter what it is, I will eat it, because someone's put love and time and care into that. So eating home baked goods, but like that again, when we're cooking at home or baking at home, and a lot of people, everyone was baking banana bread or whatever it was during lockdown. And thinking that are eating too much of it, but it's trying to take the time out. And it's okay if you feel full after eating it and saying, okay, I feel full after that. Maybe the next time I'll eat slower and wait until I feel full. And slowing down, being mindful with it again. So these are ways. Thanks for all your suggestions. I'm starving now. So I'll just minimize that. Okay. So the next thing is just thinking along these terms. It's small changes that lead to big results. And this is something we always talk about on the LLA. It's taking that first tiny step, but to stay going. And every time you get a setback, every time there's a bump in the road, that you don't give up, you just keep going. So what is sustainable for you? What small changes can you make? But keep going. Don't make the changes too big that they're impossible to keep. Don't say from one day of eating cornflakes for breakfast and chips for lunch and Soup Max for dinner that you're going to eat salads for all your meals, because it's too hard. People have lives, people get busy. It's not going to be sustainable. So what is sustainable for you? What can you 100% now say that you can do tomorrow and Tuesday, and what day is it? Not Sunday and Monday and Tuesday. I mean, what can you do all those days that are going to help you long term, that are going to help you in the long term? So some of the changes that I've made before with women is just changing, a simple change, going from white bread to wholemeal bread. And that's it until they're ready to make the next change. Another change might be, you might not change all your meals, you might just change your breakfast first. So instead of having Frosties for breakfast, that you have changing to Weetabix. So it's still the same idea. You don't have to put any extra time in it, but Weetabix is a bit better. And then going even better when they're ready. So going from Weetabix to porridge maybe, because there's more nutrients in porridge than there is in Weetabix. And then even after that, experimenting with eggs, experimenting with adding some vegetables to their eggs, having spinach there. So starting small. And then another small change, just changing from full sugar Coke to sugar-free Cokes. And that's a small change that you can make as well that will have a huge impact on your health long term. So if you have a little think now, what is one thing that you think you could make better tomorrow? And even when you're looking at meals, let's say you have you're making an egg mayonnaise sandwich for yourself. You can make that egg mayonnaise sandwich a little bit better by having it on brown bread instead of white bread. You can make tiny changes like that. You can make yogurt, having a plain yogurt, you can make that a little bit better, maybe by adding some flaxseed to it, or you can add some nuts to it or something. How can you make meals a little bit better? You can have, if you're eating toast and beans, how can you make that better? Changing the bread again. How can you make soup better? Maybe you can add chicken to it to keep you fuller for longer and give you more nutrients. So think of small things you can do to make it better. And these small changes are going to empower you just to make you feel like you're doing something towards your health. So don't think that you have to make overall changes and using this then as a reason to not keep going with your diet or not keep going with your lifestyle changes. And don't use eating one biscuit or going off something to ruin your success or your achievements to date. Sometimes people can have a biscuit on a Tuesday and say, okay, I've ruined everything now, I'm going to start again next Monday. But you haven't ruined anything. The only way you ruin anything is by giving up. So keep going and keep making those small changes. And the last one is not preparing for these barriers. So we've gone through all the things. So knowing your values, this can help with everything, knowing your values. It can help you with decision making. It can help you decide where you want to go in life. It can help you with figuring out any other pastimes that you want to pick up. Like if you realize that you are kind and you value kindness, or you value contribution, you might start volunteering now, and that might be the missing thing in your life that's going to make you feel better about yourself and make you feel more fulfilled. So educating yourself around nutrition, and you can do this more as well by following people on Instagram. But make sure you're following the right people, people who make you feel bad about yourself, people who make you feel like give you a poor body image isn't going to help. So reading books, following educated people on Instagram, following people on Facebook, listening to podcasts is one I love. So finding out how you can educate yourself more. Challenge your body image, challenge the way you think about yourself, challenge the thoughts you have about yourself, because these can lead to negative eating behaviors. Look at the rules that you have about yourself, look at the restrictions you have about your food, and challenge these, because these can lead to binge eating and other negative food behaviors. Make sure you enjoy your food. That's your X factor. So add something, have the takeaway on a Friday, have the ice cream on a Sunday, have the cake on a Saturday, have whatever it is, add mayo to your salads if it's going to make you eat salads. Look at the bigger picture and see what's going to make everything more enjoyable to you, so that you're more likely to stick to your nutrition goals. And then, so what if you are trying to do this and then you come up against some barriers? Okay. Okay, there's a question there, but I will just come to that after this. Is that okay? So what are the potential difficulties that you might come across? What are your triggers? For a lot of people, it's the weighing scale can lead to binging. For a lot of people, it's a fight with your spouse. It might be something that's happening in your life that you have no control over. For some people, it's just the weather. It's something that can make them feel low. So what are your triggers? Finding out what your triggers are and planning for this, okay? So focus, rather than saying, oh, I failed again, I didn't adhere 100% to the plan. Don't look at that. Don't look at when you have overeaten and you didn't want to, or when you haven't gotten up and exercised on a day when you planned to. Look at why. So, and analyze, be your own detective. Work out why these things didn't happen. Don't worry about perceived failure. Look at how can I make this better. It's just, okay, that didn't work for me. Why didn't it work for me? I overate that day. Why did I overeat that day? Was I tired? Was I feeling shit? Sorry. Was I feeling low? Was I, am I sick? What's going on for me there? And then it can educate you on yourself. It can empower you to make the changes that you need to make. So look at what happened, why it happened, and how will you proceed from this, rather than berating yourself and feeling bad about yourself. How are you going to move on from this? How are you going to learn from this? So take a second there to think of a time when you didn't do something you had planned, or you'd gone against something you had planned, and why do you think it happened? You don't have to share this, just to kind of practice this so you can use it for again. What happened? Why do you think it happened? And how are you going to learn from that? So maybe at the time it happened, you said, God, I have no motivation. Everyone has motivation. I'm crap. I can't do this. But what could you have said instead? How would you proceed? So maybe you can say, next time I will sit down and eat my dinner rather than standing up. Or next time I'll make breakfast the night before. I'll put the porridge on in the pot because I didn't have enough time to do that in the morning. Or maybe I'll have some frozen vegetables in the freezer so that I can make sure that if I'm too tired to make the vegetables, I can make them there. Okay, so there's lots of different ways you can solve that. And if you can't figure it out from yourself, then ask somebody. Ask someone who you know knows about this stuff, or ask someone who you know has gotten over these kind of barriers. Okay, so some of the barriers are just to be cognizant of this, that there is no linear way of weight loss. It doesn't just happen, you go from weight A to weight B in a specific amount of time. That doesn't happen. You can see here that there's so many ups and downs. But if this person here gave up when they reached this top weight in their journey, they would never have gotten to their goal weight. Okay, and their goal weight might be down here, it might be wherever, and they have to keep going. You don't give up. Giving up is the only way you fail. Keep going, no matter how many bumps are in the road. If the weighing scale is a problem, the weighing scale is a problem for so many, and there's so many different reasons why your weight might go up on the weighing scale. It could be your time of the month. It could be having a high carbohydrate meal the day before, a high salt meal, having a really hard workout the day before can increase water retention. Different stress can increase water retention. So being aware of this and educating yourself on this. But ask yourself as well, why do you need to know your weight? No one else knows your weight, and no one else is asking for your weight, except on some programs they are, but no one else on the general grand scheme of things knows your weight. When you, on your headstone, it's not going to read your weight. It's going to talk, when you die, people are going to talk about how kind you are, how hardworking you are, what you achieved in your lifetime, but no one ever talks about your weight. So why do you need to weigh yourself every day? Ask yourself that. It can be useful for some people who are reaching athletes who need to reach specific goals or targets. And if you don't have an emotional connection with the scale, it can be okay for you too, but I find a lot of people do. So challenge that. You don't need to know your weight. You can see success in the way you feel. You can see success in how fit you are. You can see success in your ability to run after your kids, in your ability to jump out of bed, in how you feel about yourself. There's so many other ways to measure success that don't involve weighing yourself and putting an importance on a number. So barriers, hump day. I was talking with a friend during the week, and she was saying that and a lot of the women in the group actually as well on the LLA group have a problem with hump day, but it's being prepared for that day. So if on a Wednesday you always find that you are chasing your tail, that the week has caught up with you, you're knackered, you're wrecked, there's a load of washing to do, the floors haven't been done, prepare for those days. So have a meal in the freezer for that day, or have something really simple to make, that every Wednesday you have frozen veg with vacuum packed fish and something like that. Something that's really easy and healthy, something you can go to, something that's in your press that you can take out, like a tin of chickpeas as well. You can make a lovely meal out of that, a curry with frozen veg. So it's just being prepared for those days, if they're consistently being days that are a struggle for you. So noticing that. Stressful situations. So we all have stressful times in our life, and it's how to work around those days. So if it's something that occurs like deadlines for work or something like that, like the hump day, preparing for those days, preparing for the days when you don't have a lot of time. But if it's something that's a once in a lifetime stressful situation, then looking at how you want the people around you to manage stress. So I will finish up, Margot, sorry. I'm at the end now. So being able to relay your ability to manage stress to other people. And if you can't do that, maybe looking for help. And plan for barriers, making decisions. If you are trying to decide between different things that are causing you stress in your life, going back to your values, what's important to you, and what will give you most enjoyment or fulfillment, and negative self-thought. And we talked about ways of overcoming that, and that can be a big barrier for people moving forward. Okay, one of the girls on the LLA tagged me in this yesterday, and I just think it epitomizes everything I've been talking about. Guilt and stress do more damage to your body than chocolate cake ever will. So don't feel bad about the chocolate cake. If it's going to help you adhere to your goals long term, eat as much chocolate cake as you want. So that's me. I'm going to, there's some questions there. Sorry, I went a bit over, Margot.